Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Awkward Love. This was a series that came out in 2015 and it lasted for 3 seasons. It's a New Zealand show. And I was lucky enough to be able to watch it just like all of you can because it's available on YouTube for free and stuff. I believe over in New Zealand it was on actual TV, but for international purposes it was on YouTube. And it's kind of funny how I got into this show because, like, I'm an American and it's not like I can just watch a Kiwi show like out of the blue. You know what I'm saying? And because, like, a lot of them I've just never seen. I've only seen really, I guess you could say, 4 New Zealand shows that weren't like American shows that were filmed over there. And like, I'm not sure which was the first. Either this was the first or Filthy Rich was. But I've also seen Creamery, which is available on Hulu. Filthy Rich, I'm not going to be able to watch no more because I can't find it on streaming anymore. And let's see, Flat 3, which is also available on YouTube, which are the creators from Creamery and stuff. And so, like, other than that, I've never ever seen another New Zealand show. Well, kinda. I saw The Tribe, one episode, because something happened to my TV years ago when I had cable, and it was like you go to like channel 0 or something like that, and it just kept bopping around from other countries, and I was able to see one episode of like The Tribe. And so, like, but other than that, I've never seen like, another New Zealand show, only American shows that are like filmed over there and stuff. And so what actually got me into this show is actually one of the actresses on here, Lucinda Hare, because she was in one episode very briefly of Ash versus Evil Dead. I'm all like, oh wow, she's pretty like cute and everything. So I'm like, who is this woman? Because she looked like another American actress and stuff. And so like, I looked up my IMDb, and so I'm like, okay, what's this? What's this? What's this? At that time, she didn't have that many like listings under her belt, and so Awkward Love was one of them. So like I Googled it and everything. I'm like, oh hey, it's on YouTube. So I watched it and I fell in love with it. That's like it's a really, really, really funny show about 4 women living in Auckland, New Zealand. And like, so the show is actually created by one of the actresses on this show. It is created by Holly Shervay, I think that's how you say her name, and she plays Alice on the show. And so she is the creator, and actually the first season actually revolves solely around her character. And the show is actually written by like another actress on the show, Jess Sayer, and she plays Zoe on the show. She's the head writer. Now all 4 women actually helped also write the last season of the show. It's kind of like, I think they call it like a story by or something like that, where it's like they come up with the conception of like the show, or not the show, but the conception of like an episode, and then somebody else like writes around that and stuff. And it was directed by Emmett Skelton, I think that's how you say his name. And it's really interesting because like when you watch this show, I think he said like basically it was just like 4 actresses and like 2 like crew people and like and they just like filmed it, like I think like the first season, then it became a hit, and then they was able to get like more stars to like be in the show and like stuff like that. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Like if Hollywood, well, I don't know what Hollywood is called over there, but like if the entertainment world like doesn't grab you and want you to be in that stuff, man, do stuff on your own and make things happen. Because a lot of times there's a lot of creative people in the world who never get to shine and everything. And these are 4 very talented actresses and stuff. And that's why I love the internet and streaming and stuff like that, because you get to watch like shows from other countries, and they have a unique take on how they do certain things. Like this is a kind of like comedy, not so much a sitcom and everything, but it's a comedy series, like a comedy kind of like drama and everything. And it's like they write stories that you like. The writing here is like very unique and different because it's kind of like it's I don't know, it's weird. It's just different than like American comedy series. Like they take on subjects that like, happens all around the world, like, anybody can go through. But it's the way they do it, it's the way they act in it that this has a unique feel, a unique like flavor to it. And that's one of the things I've always said about like a lot of these European shows that I've been watching. Over the last couple of years because of streaming, like Dairy Girls and Some Girls and like I think it's Ackley Bridge, I think that's what it's called. It's just that they approach subject matter in a very different and unique way. At times they really don't like hold back, which a lot of American television do. And that's because things are very formulaic here. Like, there's a formula to how we write things and how we view like humor and dramas and stuff like that. To where, like, you can watch a movie, like, say you have, like, Clueless, like I was talking about just recently, and how, like, you have the attractive, like preppy, rich girl, and she's rude throughout the entire movie. But then later on, she learns to like the nerdy kind of guy who she would never be interested in. It's like very formulaic, and they take subject matter such as alcoholism, losing your job, losing your home, what is it, relationships, sexual like harassment and stuff like that, breakups and relationships. They take that and they I don't know, it's weird. It's like they fold it into like a different kind of unique way of storytelling, and it's really fresh and new and everything. And it's just really fascinating. Like, there are a lot of people who have watched this show from America and they've commented on it and they loved it. I'm actually surprised the comments are very, like, small, but they have a huge, like, subscriber fan base and stuff like that. But like I said before, it only lasted for 3 seasons. I wish to God it would have lasted longer because it did leave off on a cliffhanger and stuff. And it really sucks they've never been able to resolve, like, what happened after those events. It's too bad they can't, like, just like do like a special, like, pretend like they're just like chatting with each other on the webcam and like just talking, explain what happened after those events, or just something like that. Or do like a TV movie, just like something. It would be so nice to finally, like, give some type of resolution to, like, the series and stuff. And so I'm not gonna go into like specific details of what every like episode is like about. You can watch it for yourself. I'll just give, like, the gist of like the characters and what they went through and stuff like that. Certain things I like, certain things I don't. Because for the most part, I like this entire series. There's just a few things in it that really I did not like or care for. Especially one thing that happened in season 3. And so, like, I guess we'll start with the person who created the show and like the first season was based off of. So Alice, played by Holly Gervais. And so, like, the entirety of the first season revolves around that of her character. She went through a breakup with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend, or ex, I should say, I forget his name. But he played young Aeolus on Young Hercules. I always get happy when I see this dude because he was young Aeolus and everything. And so he's only in it for a few seconds. And after the breakup, she's kind of zombified after that. Like, her expressions are very vague. She's not really like communicating much with people. It's a really hard time she has to go through. But her friends help her get through it. Now, I was very confused when I watched the first season. I liked the first season, but I feel like it's probably the weakest of like all three, only because of the simple fact that it revolves around solely one character, and the other three characters, they really don't do much with those characters. It's just you get a snippet of who they are, and that's like literally it. It's kind of like, I assume it was a show where it's just there's a main central character, and the friends just help that like character like go throughout the series. I assumed it was like that, which confused me because when you read the synopsis, it's about like four characters and stuff, and then when you watch the other seasons, it's kind of like, oh, well, it is about all four ladies and stuff. But basically, she's an artist, and like doing her breakup is like very hard. So, she has like pictures of him of like, her wall, which is kind of what the first intro is about. The first intro is mostly just like her board of like pictures, and it goes through like each picture, which has like, four of the ladies and, stuff like that, the events of like, the actress. I guess some younger pictures too. I love the intro song for the first two seasons. It is one of the catchiest songs I've ever heard. You have to listen to the full version. In the third season, for whatever reason, they went with like hip hop and stuff. I don't know why, but I really miss that like intro music to the first two seasons. It really like gets you in the mood of the show and stuff. And so, like, basically, in the first season, it's just like she's dealing with things like she has to get like an examination down there because she wants to know how she looks down there, in case she might need surgery and stuff, which is something women go through, but you never really hear in like an American comedy series and stuff. And like I said before, over in other countries, they just like, they just like go for things and stuff. And so like trying to remember what else she goes through in the first season, but basically she's an artist. Oh, her friends convince her to like get on a dating app and take certain pictures of her top and send it to the guy. And she sends it to the wrong person. She sends it to her boss. And so he sends a new photo of himself, and he thinks she's into him, which she is not. By some time in like the second season and stuff, because she lives with two other people. She lives with that Grace and Vicky. However, Zoe just happens to just like bum off them and live off them and stuff. And so she's there from occasion. And so like in the second season, she starts dating a new guy. And there's drug use in the second season, like smoking pot and stuff like that. And so like she, for whatever reason, and I don't know why her character did this, because it just, I don't know, because now it makes you wonder why her and her boyfriend broke up in the first season. She's at like her boyfriend's place because she got kicked out of her own because there's a situation that went on with Vicky. And so like when she's over there, she cheats on him with one of his roommates. I don't know how far the cheating went because they showed that off camera and stuff. And so, like, then at some point, her and the roommate start to like do it again. But then they get caught by her boyfriend. And when they get caught, she gets so scared, she locks herself in one of the rooms. She climbs out the window and she heads back to her place, distraught and everything. And then she saves like Vicky's life. By the second and the third season, for the most part, it doesn't really revolve around her. And it revolves more around the other characters. And she almost kind of gets kind of like forgotten at times. And so like around the I'll say third season or so, like she's single and she's still working on her art. We always see her like painting stuff. I don't know if the actress is a painter or not. I do wonder sometimes if they take certain personalities from like, the actresses, because Zoe is a lesbian on the show and the actress is a lesbian in real life. And when it comes to Grace, Grace is a hippie on the show with hairy armpits, and the actress, well, they have hairy armpits as well, and is a hippie. So I do wonder sometimes if they do take inspiration from the actual actresses' lives and stuff. And so like around the third season, she gets high by eating like an edible, and she's really upset by that, which is shocking because in the second season she proudly smokes weed and everything. And so like she gets high with like her friends she works with at her job, and then those two woke up like the next morning next to each other, but apparently they didn't do nothing, I don't think. And they never even really kissed. And so like eventually those two start to like date, and like when they're about to have their first kiss together, it's so funny. A bird just poops out of nowhere when they're outside, and it lands on her mouth. The most random thing just like happens and stuff. And so like I still can't believe that happened. I remember one time a bird pooped on my hip. I was pissed off. And so like um they eventually like do it, and he goes down on her, and she had her very first orgasm like ever, because apparently her and her original boyfriend from the first season, they had like boring sex and stuff. And so like when she exploded, she freaked out and like locked herself in like the bathroom and stuff. Oh man, I swear. But then later on, by the third season, her boyfriend just disappears halfway into like the season, and she's just dealing with the ramifications of what Vicky did. Now, there's a really scary situation with Alice in season three. It's where she's painting something, and some guy, I don't know who he is, but he's like some rich fancy guy, and he wants her to draw him or paint him nude, but she doesn't feel comfortable. And the thing is, he just started taking off his clothes without her permission. And she's all like, "Oh, well, you want me to sketch you?" And he's like, "Yes," and everything. And so this guy is very perverted and stuff. He did drugs with and partied with that of like Grace and Carol and Zoe and all them and stuff like that. Maybe Grace wasn't there, but I know Zoe was there, and Vicky's sister and Carol. And this is what started making Carol feel uncomfortable, realizing what Vicky's sister was doing to her. So, anyways, after she sculpts him and everything, draws him, sketches him, whatever you want to call it, he loves it. But then he's all like, "No, you see this part down here?" And he's reaching to his pelvic area in the painting. Then he takes Alice's hand and he puts it on like his thigh area. And it makes her feel very, very, very uncomfortable because I knocked my camera over. He's literally just like forcing her onto him and everything. And she feels disgusted and dirty after this so much that she can't cope and everything because it's sexual harassment. And so like she's so upset. Like she just wants to drown her sorrows out in ice cream. Well, she won't tell nobody what happened. Like literally, she won't tell nobody, and it never gets resolved. And so Grace like cheers her up by like they're eating ice cream and watching movies, and Zoe upsets her by telling her, when you're on your period, your farts really, really stink. And Alice just like tears up big time, not because of the farts, but because she's thinking about what happened with her. I'm still not sure why this angle never got resolved. It actually got very dark to where the show didn't feel like a comedy, more like a drama and stuff. And I really wish that story angle would have got like resolved, because it really sucks when people get away with stuff like this. And I know in real life, a lot of people get away with this and a lot of females don't tell. So it is playing off realism and stuff like that. But I really wish TV would have more of punishment for stuff like this, because then it will teach people that more, like, hey, you shouldn't do that, you know what I'm saying? And it's very inappropriate. And because, like I said before, the whole Me Too era is like, it was a teaching moment for a lot of people. And the reason why you start seeing it in more shows is to teach, like, people of all ages, especially younger people, not to make the dumb, boneheaded mistakes that older people do and stuff. And so I wish they would show the consequences of what happens when a person does that, instead of them just getting away with it, like 13 Reasons Why. I don't understand the second season of 13 Reasons Why. I get they're playing on a realistic aspect of it, but show people that there are consequences to doing this and not just getting away with it. I like the character of Alice, although slightly flawed and everything like everybody else in the world. She has a good heart and everything. She's sensible. She's like she has like a really like vibrant like sense about her when she's not like down in the dumps. But like, just like everybody else, like when something bad happens to her and she just kind of like shuts off, you know what I'm saying? And when she shuts off, it's just like you can literally see her beside herself. And that's how a lot of people are in real life. And that's why I like when a lot of shows are very realistic, even in the comedy sense. If you watch most like American comedy shows from like the older days and stuff, it's like they're almost like cartoon characters in a way. In some more recent years, they act more realistic, but in the sitcom kind of fashion, they don't. In a more comedy type show, they do. And so I do like to see, like, how her character is a nice, sensible person and an all-around good person, but she does have flaws, and like, and it's nice to see her in a relationship that for the most part is going well, but we don't get to see much of it. Like, we never really get to see too much of her like relationships. It's just like they're there and either they like end really fast, or they're like the one dude in season 3 who just like completely like disappears and stuff. And it would have been nice if she would have told him, what happened between her and that dude in the art gallery and stuff. But that never happened. I'll get into Grace next. Grace is played by non-binary actress Jess. Is it Holly or Holly Bates? And what is it? Jess just had a baby. I don't know how long ago and everything, but she had a baby, or they had a baby and everything. And they are married to a female, which, like I said before, I sometimes I do wonder to just take inspiration from like the actresses' real lives, because in the show, the Grace character starts off as straight, but then she gets in a relationship with a couple, and then she starts doing stuff with female. And sadly, give your prayers to Jess's wife, because Jess's wife is going through cancer and stuff. And I hate cancer so much. Like, I just hate cancer so much. Like, why can't they find a cure for that crap, That's like permanently, and doesn't have to do with like radiation therapy and stuff. But Grace is the hippie of the show. And she's all about spirituality. She works at this one place where she says she listens to people's bodies. I forget how she explains it, but like when, what's her name? Alice was going through the breakup in the first season, she's all like, she was really trying to help, like, Alice out through that, but I forget how she helped her. It was some type of spiritual thing or something like that. I can't remember what. Like, she was trying to cleanse like her chakras or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. I've only ever watched this show 3 times in its entirety. I wanted to talk about it years ago, but I ran out of time and I got really busy and stuff. And so like the second season for the most part revolves around her character. And her character is dating a guy, and I'm not really sure too much about him. He's kind of a free spirit hippie as well. And one of the interesting things that both of them did, I don't know if it's really his thing or her thing too, but when they go grocery shopping, they don't do it in the store. they go into garbage dumpsters and stuff, and they scavenge whatever they can find out of there, and they always get in trouble by this one person who's kind of like a cop type person or whatever, or security. And so when they fixed everybody's food, none of the other ladies were eating it except for Vicky. And Vicky didn't understand why nobody else was eating until she found out why. Oh boy. And so there's one scene where, like, her and her man are like doing it, and they messed around with, like, Alice's paint, and that really pissed her off. And there's so much of free spirits, they do it out in tents outside and in the backyard and like stuff like that, right? Well, when Zoe's out and about, she sees a woman she once made out with at like a club. And this woman started making out with Grace's boyfriend. So she tells Grace. And Grace is really upset, and she confronts her boyfriend about this. And he tells her he's polyamorous, which I really did not even know what the world that was. But apparently, I guess it's people who are in relationships but feel the need to spread their wings and cheat, and they have other relationships and their partner is okay with that. I guess that's the terminology of it. I just call them cheaters because that's basically what they are. I mean, you ain't gotta put like a nice friendly bow on a word like you're a cheater. Plain and simple as that. So he convinces her to, like, be part of that like lifestyle and stuff. And she tries it out, but she's very uncomfortable with it and stuff. And when she is at the club and she's at like this is it amorous? I forgot what I just literally said. Poly, let's just call it that. So she's at like a club event for that, and there's people just mingling with each other, and it's one of those things that she's trying to get used to, but not really getting used to. So she kisses like his girlfriend, and I forget what his girl, Carol, and everything. And so like one day, him and her are gonna do it, but he's not really feeling it and stuff. And eventually they do break up. But then things get worse because Zoe starts to date Carol. And that really, really, really pisses off and Grace, because she feels disrespected, because Carol not only stole her man, but now she's stealing her best friend. And it's to the point where she can't take it, to when it gets to the third season, she comes back. I don't know how long she's been gone, but like it's never really explained where she is until halfway into the season. She went to India and everything, because she's dressed back in more Indian type fashion than what she normally is. And it's kind of like, wow, she just up and like left. Like that was a bad breakup. And it's like even Alice didn't like leave the country and stuff. But when she comes back, she's pissed because they're throwing a party at the house and people's going through all her stuff. And she's just not feeling appreciated. So she leaves again. And she's kind of like homeless on the street with like a sign. I can't read the name of the sign. Well, she goes to live with her parents, but the other ladies don't know where she's at. And they're worried, but they don't go looking for her for some bizarre reason. Well, at some point, when she's at her parents' place, she meets an old friend of hers that, she hooked up with back when they was like younger and stuff, and used to make out with. And so like they was protesting something. Now this is a problem I have, this is one of the problems I have with like the show. It's the way she protested. Not that they're new, I could care less about that. But she used paint on both him and her to paint themselves brown. Everything is brown from head to toe. And when you look at it, it looks like they did a form of brown or a black face. Mostly probably brown face, because most of the time when you do black face, it's just like all black. But their entire body's covered like that. But then when you look at the background, they're standing next to a fence. And the fence is painted the exact same color as them. Now, the guy she is with, he is naturally brown skinned. And then so he paint his color even more brown. So at first I'm thinking to myself, why are they doing brown face? But I'm not really sure what the message is that they're trying to send when the thing that they're protesting and stuff. Well, The problem I have with this is that whether it's for kicks and giggles or whatever, it is still a form of racism, a form of like prejudice when people do paint their skin color a different color to match a different race. It's always to mock another race, even in comedy. And I know the other Jess who plays Zoe, who's the head writer, she said that one thing she loves about this series is that it's unapologetic. That's a problem I have with comedians in general. Is that like the ones that are like don't care about like they like doing things that are unapologetic, and they write things that are edgy for the sake of being edgy, and they write offensive stuff for the sake of being like offensive. Now I do like the head writer Jess who plays Zoe. This isn't like an attack on her or nothing like that. Because she wrote an amazing show, and she brought like why can't I talk today? LGBT representation in the show that wasn't like pandering to people or like preaching to people and stuff. And because even in New Zealand, I'm not sure how they feel about that over there. I just now found out how they feel about black folks over there, but like it is not pretty. I thought it was bad over here, but like I remember there was this other actress, and she's Maori and Samoan probably from another show. And she played a lesbian character. And she said she was proud to play that character because people within her own race oppose it and stuff. And so that was nice of like, just to like bring that awareness to like a show that from a country who probably frowns on it. Like I said, I'm not too sure because I live over here, they live over there. But my problem with this is that even though I do not think the head writer is racist, well, at least I hope not, this is still a form of racism, and you shouldn't let comedians get away with it, because comedians always think they can get away with this crap because they do it all the time in the past, and they do it for kicks and giggles, but they really do it because they want to be edgy. If you want to be edgy, be edgy. You don't have to have this. That's one thing I don't understand about comedians. That they think humor has to be offensive for some bizarre reason. It's the best way to like get a kick and a rise out of people. And that is, to my opinion, like I've said before, many times before, one of the most saddest and desperate attempts to make a person laugh. And so like, and I've even seen somebody comment in the comment section talking about they're not cool with that blackface, and then another person's all like, oh, they're just painted the same color as the fence. Well, yeah, they are. But it's still meant to be what it is. And this is why I can't stand it when I see this in comedy. Sarah Silverman did blackface on her show years ago, and she never apologized for it until recently because people kept getting on to her about like other stuff. Nick Cannon, I'm not cool with because he did whiteface for like his music album and everything. Nick Cannon is an odd person. He's done whiteface. He wears a turban for some reason, and he's anti-Semitic. He frowns upon Jewish people for some reason. And that man is just strange. And the same thing goes with Ice Cube. Ice Cube wears a turban, and he's anti-Semitic. And don't even get me started on Kanye West. Boy, he is the worst of the worst. And so, like, then you have movies like White Chicks. I know a lot of people say that, White Chicks is considered one of the greatest comedies of all time, but people don't look about what it represents in a bad way. It's two black actors doing white face, and that is inappropriate. I once talked to this one, I don't know if she's white or Jewish, but I talked to this one person before, and she was okay with it because she says, oh, blacks go through so much struggles and blah blah, and white people's always like pissing on them and blah 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 blah. But that doesn't make it an excuse to have a black person do white face. Like, it doesn't. It's still racist and stuff. Not to mention, it's offensive to the LGBT community having two straight men dress up as women for comedic purposes, which is why you stop seeing that in Hollywood in America. Like, in the past, like especially like in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, you will always have a straight male character or actor dress up in like drag for comedic purposes and make like buffoonery out of it. And back in the day, it was acceptable, but nowadays it is not. And this is why you don't see that no more. So if the LGBT community can be all like, yo, that's offensive. We don't want straight men dressing up as women for comedic purposes. Why can't people? Well, people have done the same when it comes to like, blackface and brownface and yellowface. But yet these comedians, for whatever reason, still think it's funny to do that stuff. And I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it and everything. I don't know if she wrote that or somebody else wrote that or if the actress who was in the makeup decided to do that for whatever reason. But somebody should have saw that and be all like, yo, man, this is not okay. And the reason why it's not okay is because, like, there are actual real racist people who will dress up in makeup to make themselves look like a black or a Hispanic or an Indian person. And they always do it with vile, disgusting, like, mockery and everything when they do it and stuff. And they do it to like make fun of those other races that they hate. So then when a non-racist person does it for entertainment values, you're just giving an excuse to the real racists out there. And this is why people need to stop making this excuse for like comedians and stuff. They need to stop getting away with it. Because this goes on in other countries and people have no idea. Like in Japan, in anime, there are like blackface characters and stuff. And it's like, what the world is going on? Because they're not black characters. They're just like painted in blackface. And a lot of people could just still say, oh, they just paint themselves as the color of the fence. But the real reason why they did it, especially when it's a comedy show, like take Community, when Shane dressed up as like a black troll or elf type person, and he's covered in black face, and that's very, very, very offensive. The writers knew what they was doing. They're aware of it. They're always aware of it and everything. And they try to like push it off as, oh, this is just a joke and everything. But it's never, ever funny. If it ain't funny for a straight man to dress up as a woman and make fun of them, then it's not funny for a person of one race to dress up as another race and make fun of them. Because the thing is, people of color go through so much crap on a daily basis. And when they go home, they just want to relax, watch TV or a movie, but then not see themselves being portrayed by another race as a mockery. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just too much. Because I remember George Takei, who plays Sulu on Star Trek, the original series, he showed a clip when he did an interview of a movie he was in. This was back in the old days, right? And it was like an Asian movie, and some guy played his sensei. And the guy who played his sensei was a white actor with yellow paint on his face. And I think he might have had buck teeth or not, whatever. But then when you watch the clip and everything, it was so disrespectful because it was just made to look like tomfoolery and everything. And George literally said he was so disrespected by doing that movie and what he saw, because he had no idea they was going to cast a white person as an Asian person. And could you imagine how much that hurt him to see and everything? So it's kind of like when you see that like brown face or whatever you want to call it in this episode of them painting themselves the color of the fence, because the fence is painted the same color. It's like, really, like nobody, like that clicked in nobody's head that, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's so disrespectful. That's one thing I just don't understand about comedians. I don't understand why they get a rise out of like offending people, out of like really offensive like type stuff. It's like, I don't get it. Like, I really, really don't. This is why I think a lot of comedians, no matter what country they're in, because I've said this before, I think they're just demented in the head. Like, I really do. It's just like they get the biggest rise out of the most offensive stuff. And I don't understand that. Like, I don't. Like, what happened in like comedians' childhood that caused them to want to be this way? Like, And so in the third season, like after the whole protest thing, she gets arrested with her mom and stuff. And then the other girls bail her out because they finally found out where she was because she was on the news. And so when they go back to like, their place, all is like well again, except for her and Zoe. Zoe decided she's gonna date Carol, and one of the reasons why she left her apartment is because she saw Zoe and Carol make out in the bathroom, and Zoe was being very rude to her for no reason. Well, later on towards the end of like the series, she forgives Zoe and even forgives Carol, which is kind of weird. She would forgive them out of like the blue, but I guess she's like a very forgiving type person and don't want that on her conscience and stuff like that. And so then she helps like the rest of the girls, like, deal with the situation Vicky has caused. I'll get to Vicky last because, oh my God. Grace is probably the best character out of everybody in the show because she never does anything like wrong and everything. She has this unique way of looking at life that's very different from like most people and like her friends and stuff. And for the most part, when bad stuff happens to her, you really, really feel bad for her because for the most part, she is like the nicest person in the entire show. And it sucks when like bad things happen, like between the whole Zoe and Carol thing, because Grace did like nothing wrong, and it sucks that she tried to change her life just to fit that of like, make her boyfriend happy and do things that she would never normally do because nobody deserves to get cheated on, like nobody. And at that same time, nobody deserves to like, alter their lifestyle just to make somebody else happy. I remember that happened with a friend of mine's in college. She dated this guy. Like originally I was friends with him. And then he introduced me to her because they was dating. And they dated for the longest time until he cheated on her with their other friend. And so like it was weird after that because after they broke up, he still wanted to be a part of her life and everything. And it made things very difficult for her because here she is, like the friend on the outside who has to hang out with her ex-boyfriend and her former best friend as her ex and her ex best friend are like doing it, and I think they wanted her to like join in, which I don't know if she ever did or not. She was never too truthful when it came to too much of her like personal dating life, but I'm pretty sure they like did and everything. And I remember she was just like bursting into tears one day in the cafeteria, and sorry about that. My battery died. What was I talking about? So like my friend, she was just like bursting into tears one day, really upset. And because me and her were barely like friends, but we became better friends afterwards and stuff. And so like she said she just couldn't take it no more. It hurts too much. Like why would he want her to still be associated with them after he broke her heart and all, like, everything's gonna be okay, but then it's not, you know what I'm saying? And so after that day, I just stopped being friends with him and I started being friends with her because I didn't like the way that he treated her and stuff. Like that was a really crappy situation of trying to have like your cake and eat it too. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that reminds me of like the Grace and Zoe Carroll character and stuff. So Zoe, she is played by Jess Sayer, and she is the lesbian of the group. And so like Vicky is always pointing out that she is like a lesbian and stuff like that. And in the first two seasons, mostly in the first, Zoe doesn't do much of like anything in the first two seasons for the most part. She's mostly just like a big kid. She's goofy, she's silly, she's zany. Like when Alice got kicked out of her apartment, Zoe just like, everybody's upset, like just looking around at each other. She's looking at like, Vicky, and she's just kind of like, I will take her room. It's just like the most awkward thing ever. And it's hilarious. And so for the first two seasons, she really doesn't do anything. In the second season, she spies on Vicky and finds out what Vicky is doing now for a job. And for the longest time, I had no idea what Zoe even like did for like a living because like she's always at like their place and she's just always out and about. And it turns out she works for like a company that creates apps. And it's so funny because she's on like somebody's talk show. And she created an app for like lesbians and everything. And the host could not say the word lesbians to save her life. And Zoe's just kind of like, lesbians! In her Kiwi sounding voice, like over and over. And she's all like, what's going on? Like, how come you can't say that word? And like the man who's like filming is all like, lesbian. She's like, see, he can say it. But then in season 2, they give her a story arc where involves her father. Her father is like an alcoholic and stuff like that, and she's trying to get him to stop like drinking, and it shows that she is sweet and sincere. And when she goes to his place and he's doing some woman, I don't know who he's doing, but it's like a friend of Zoe's, she gets really upset. And when she got really upset, this is when she started just like, making out with Carol and everything. Now, in the first 2 seasons, when you see Zoe, all she really ever see her do is go to clubs and make out with women. She really had no true story arc, not until kinda in season 2, towards the end, with her father and the whole Carol situation that caused the whole blow up with that of Grace. By season 3, her personality just like shifted. She's still kind of clueless in the head because she didn't know how to make a fruit salad. She thought you put fruit and vegetable stuff in there. And so when Carol wanted her to go grocery shopping, she went to that of like Vicky, Grace's, and Alice's place and just stole their food, talking about she doesn't like people, so she don't go to grocery stores. But it's weird because you see her at the club interacting with people, so that didn't make no sense. And so like, but they finally gave her a story arc in season 3. In season 3, she's dating Carol, and Carol has now decided to be monogamous and everything, which pisses off Grace even more to why she left, because I think this happened at the end of season 2. So Carol's all like, I'm no longer going to be polyamorous and I'm just going to stick to one person. And I broke up with like Grace's boyfriend. So that really pissed Grace off. Grace is kind of like, oh, so I lost my boyfriend and I lost my best friend and everything. That was the end of season 2. And so by season 3, for whatever reason, Zoe is just rude to Grace, like cussing her out and all this other stuff, doesn't care that she's with Carol, which causes, of course, Grace to leave, and Zoe never like looks for her and stuff. By this time, her and Carol are getting like very, very, very close, to the point that where Carol wants her to move in with her. Now, for the longest time, I never knew where Zoe lived, and I still don't know where Zoe lived. I assumed she lived with like the other girls, but it turns out she doesn't, and she's just mooches off of them and everything. And she's a little bit more selfish in season 3, and it's to the point where like she cheats on Carol, and she cheats on her with Vicky's sister. But they never like done it. They just like, always make out and stuff. And when Carol found out, she's not happy with that, and she kicks like, Zoe out. And then when the whole situation with Vicky comes into play, they have to have like, Carol help them and stuff deal with that situation. But then also that of Vicky's sister. But like I said before, her and Grace like made up and everything and stuff. But it is kind of weird to see her go through this weird personality shift, because she's no longer acting like the person she did in season 1 and 2. I like that they gave her character development, but it just kind of sucks that they had to give her such a crappy personality in like season 3. Now, Jess, who plays Zoe, is the head writer of the show. And I remember I read a comment or somebody was upset talking about like everybody else can have a relationship, but we never see Zoe have one. And they felt like that she wasn't given real LBG representation. She does in season 3 when making out with this one lady a lot. However, the actress did say in an interview for the show that like she wanted to show representation that wasn't always like, preachy pandering to people and stuff. She just wanted a lesbian to be just that of a lesbian and just act like a regular person. She didn't want to have to hear their woe is me type stories and stuff. I do wonder how people feel about that, because I've seen other YouTube videos, people talking about representation. Not toxic people, like normal people with sane, who's sanity in the head. They're like, it's just true. Like, what exactly is real representation? And because some people like one thing and others like another. There are those that like representation that has to do with the woe is me's of like a diverse person, the ups and downs and the struggles of their life. Then there are other people who want to see representation by seeing like a diverse character, but just act like completely normal with no woe is me's. And then I've seen one person say they don't like that. They say when diverse people just act like regular normal people and you don't hear about their struggles of like what it is to be them, then they're just a person of color playing like a white character, which makes some sense to a certain degree. Sometimes I will say it is just nice to see a person just be like a regular person. But then there's also times where it is nice to see the woe is me's of them, because you get to learn stuff about them in their community. So it's kind of like a toss up, I guess, of what you like and what you consider representation to be. I really wish they could have explored the character of Zoe a whole lot more than what they originally did in like the first two seasons, because it would have made a bit more sense for this dramatic change in like season 3. Also, because like, you see in season 1 and she's just like this happy-go-lucky person and like this kooky person, and you just like love her. Then you like her even more when she tries to get her father to stop drinking alcohol. But then she realizes she can't control her father's life and who he dates and stuff like that. But then that leads her to want to start like, just like doing things with like Carol. And it's just kind of like, why did that lead her? Like when she got so upset, why did she try to heal her pain with like clickety clacking and everything? Yeah, you know how YouTube is, you can't say certain words, so I always use like phrases and stuff and like innuendos and stuff. And so what will lead her to want to start like clickety clacking it, you know what I'm saying? And then of course, not only was she doing that, but she did it with somebody who hurt her best friend. And Grace literally told her like, you're my best friend and she stole you from me and she stole my man. Like why would, and then just to be all rude to her in season 3. Then, one thing I forgot to mention, she thought that Carol was messing around with the guy because her ex had contacted her, and that what caused her to start messing around with Vicky's sister instead of just confronting her about it. So it's kind of like with her, she is the most troubled next to Vicky and everything. And it would have been nice to explore that dynamic a whole lot more and figure out what makes her tick. You know what I'm saying? But sadly, there was no season 4. And now we get to the Vicky character, played by Lucy Hare, or Lucinda Hare. And like I said before, she is the reason why I even got into this show. Her character is a trip. Her character is very blunt and always says what's on her mind. She's the rudest out of all of them. Like, she's the number 1 rudest. Zoe is probably like the second, and then the other 2 really aren't that rude whatsoever. But she will literally cuss a person out, fuss them out, whatever. It's revealed in season 1 she has a drinking problem. This gets explored more in like small doses in the other 2 seasons till it gets really big in season 3. So they're building up to it, but in small doses to the point where you kind of forget a little bit. But in season 1, she's at a bar and the dude will not let her drink anymore because she ran up her bar tab and everything and won't pay it. So, but you always see her with a bottle of vodka coming out her purse. And you always see her holding onto a bottle of vodka every once in a while. But it's just funny when she pulls it out her purse. She would even pull it out her purse and just drink it in the club or drink it in like a bar because she can't afford to pay for it. Well, by season 2, one of the most hilarious things happened. She got drunk and she made out with a random guy on the toilet. and she's looking a little red down there, and she don't know what she got, so she got examined. And the doctor was fooling around with her, is all like, oh, you have blue waffles. She's all like, blue waffles? What is that? Thinking she has an STD. So she has her friend Google it, and we don't get to see what the picture is, but it was so terrifying that she's horrified. So she went to Grace and got some kind of like stuff. And Grace gave her like some dye, playing around with her. And so she's all like, just put that down there on your thing and everything will be fine. Zoe takes a picture, takes a look at it, and she's kind of like, you just dyed like your area down there a different color. There's no such thing as blue waffles. And everything. Oh boy. But it's also revealed in season 1 that she got fired from her job. She worked in real estate, so she's looking for other jobs. And one of the things she finds, this is when Zoe spies on her and finds like a brochure. And apparently she's called Mrs. Gray, and she's a webcam girl. Well, where people pay to make you do something and you just do it. And so Zoe didn't tell nobody, but she decided she's gonna spy on her and watch her on the webcam and stuff through the computer. Well, Alice was at her boyfriend's place, and her boyfriend and 2 of his roommates were watching Vicky on the webcam, and which really pisses off Alice and everything. Well, her boyfriend's like, this ain't cool, we shouldn't be looking at stuff. Well, one of the roommates decided to be all like, Alice said hi. So when Alice went back home, that infuriated that of Vicky, to where she kicked Alice out the place. And this is when Zoe took like the room, and when Alice moved out. Well, when Vicky was still doing the webcam thing and everything, and when Alice like cheated on her boyfriend and ran out, she goes home. And I like the way this is set up. So we see her try to open the door, or we see a person try to open the door, and then they couldn't. And so they reach for the keys on top of the door arch. And then we assume it's Alice, right? But it's not, because Vicky has been getting like flowers and stuff left on the porch by a secret admirer. So when she goes around the yard to like the window, she tells Vicky the key's missing. Well, it was the stalker that did it. So he busts through the house, and Vicky's like whooping his behind. And it turns out the stalker is actually the guy she did in the bathroom, where she thought she got like an STD from and stuff. And so he thinks that they're going out because they did it in the bathroom. And somehow he found out like where she lives. And so since Alice was willing to fight off the guy for her and everything, they became friends again. But Vicky's the type of person who does not like to apologize with her mouth. So instead, she just left a voicemail on her cell phone and just played it for her and stuff. But anyways, it turns out when it comes to Vicky, she tries to get another job making apps, which she's not very good at. And then she sees a woman who literally crapped her pants. There's a lot of poop jokes that have to do with Vicky in here. And so oh my God, I can't believe this happened. This is so gross. So when she's presenting her app about crapping your pants, talking about you need to find a restroom, well, this app will put you to the nearest one. And she makes the lady turn around, and there's brown stuff all over her pants. So gross, so disgusting. But they love the app. But for whatever reason, she didn't stick with that job. And so like I said, it's poop jokes and everything. In season 3, they had a party and somebody pooped in the cup, and she's all like, who pooped in the cup? Who pooped in the cup? And so it's brown, it's nasty. I'm like, why do you have to show that? But anyways, towards the end of season 2, this just comes out of nowhere. She's drunk at Alice's art show. This is when the whole blow up between Carol and Grace and Zoe happened, and she's so drunk, she's all like, oh yeah, I sold our place, we're homeless. So I'm just like, what? But then when season 3 comes around, they're throwing a party at the place. Well, it turns out that they've been squatting in that house for the longest time, and Vicky never told them because Vicky lost the house and everything when she really did like sell it and everything. And so they've been squatting there illegally. And so in season 3, her sister comes. And when her sister comes, Vicky does not want her there. Vicky's just like, you always ruin everything. You ruin things with my friends and blah, blah, blah. So she ruins things with like Zoe and Carol. And so Vicky kicks her out. It seems like her sister might be homeless. And so like but she's a photographer and she goes around the world and she takes pictures. When she finds out that they've been squatting in the house, she decides to stay in Auckland and everything. But she's staying in some other place, which is never really revealed. So anyways, Vicky wants her old job back and she's been begging her boss like literally every day. And I guess he gave it back to her, but then at a party, she thought she was banging him to seal the deal because she was drunk. But it turns out it was his brother. And he literally tells him, my name's not this, it's that. She's like, no, it's not. But then the boss walks in. So he's pissed and he fires her. But he doesn't fire the brother. But instead he demotes her and everything so that she can work underneath a woman named Thelma. And Thelma is really mean and very rude to that of like what's her name? Vicky. So mean, so cruel and everything. Like when Vicky drops her cell phone underneath the bathroom stall, Thelma takes it and puts it in the toilet. She treats down to that of Vicky. She talks down to her. She makes her pick up her dog's poop with her bare finger. She makes her, oh, this is the most hilarious part. Thelma just went nuts one day and wanted Vicky to rob a place. I assumed it was a bank. In the bag was like what is it, like women's stockings and everything and a gun. And so Vicky's all like, oh my god, I can't do this. She's like, oh yeah, gonna do it or I'm gonna tell the boss you've been squatting and everything. And so Vicky is just like freaked out and she walks into the place, but then she comes out and she's all like, this was a fake gun. She's like, well, I wasn't going to give you a loaded one. And so, like, let me see the goods. So I'm thinking, okay, she robbed the bank. There's tons of money in it, right? No, it's brochures for, like, real estate. She robbed another real estate place. But they made it set up like it was a bank. And so, like, Vicky finally has to come clean to, like, you know, her housemates and everything. And she tells them the reason why they went and got Grace out of jail wasn't the kindness of their heart. She just needed to get them out the house because they were having an open, like, what's it called? Like a walkthrough type thing, open house. And so, like, that's how the boss and the sister found out. And so, like, she tells them, we've been squatting here for a very long time. And the girls all like, how? We've been paying you rent. And she's like, yeah, but I've been taking that money to spend on alcohol. Which makes you wonder, how is she not able to pay her beer tab and everything at the bar? Even to the point where the bar owner moved places and she tracked them down and stuff. She has a very bad, like, alcohol problem. And so they didn't take that very nice to where they attacked her. Alice is beating the crap out of her and Grace is trying to cut the friendship bracelet off her with scissors. Well, anyways, Vicky decides to run away and she becomes homeless, but she only goes like to the neighbor's house and lives on their yard. It makes for a very hilarious scene and Vicky just cannot contemplate, like, I'm homeless, leave me alone, I shouldn't shower, I'm homeless. And so she has a nervous breakdown to the point where they have to call Carol to, like, restrain her and stuff. So they're trying to figure out how they're gonna get, like, her old job back and the house back and all this other stuff. They try to get her job back by blackmailing Thelma by saying, you've been treating Vicky all cruel and this and this and that. Well, Thelma has a trick up her own sleeve and everything. And so they know that this isn't gonna work. So then they devise a place that has to do with Melvin, the boss, Vicky's boss. I don't understand how this all happen. But anyway, they pretend that, well, it's so funny. Grace hits the back of his car as he's backing out, and then she just like punches Alice in like the knee or something like that. And so he thinks he hit Alice with the car. Oh, now I know how this happened. So he hits her with the car, and then so they all like, you hit us with the car, and so we're gonna sue. But hey, maybe give us this house or something like that. But this is the part that don't make no sense. They devised a way to get Vicky's sister, and so Vicky's sister bought the house for them, and this really shocks Vicky to where now her sister is the owner of the house. Now, one reason why Vicky hates her sister also is because she didn't go to their mom's funeral. So it makes you wonder what was season four gonna be like. Because now, you have the situation where Vicky hates her sister, but Vicky's sister is the owner of the home that they stay in. And also, Carol is still very close with Zoe and kind of took her back. Cause Grace, this was so weird. When I said Grace forgave, like, oh wait a minute, why am I replaying everything that happened in the show if y'all can just watch? I hate when I just, my mind is like that, man. It's like I remember so much and I just like replay it and everything. But anyways, it's just weird because Grace got Zoe and Carol back together. So it does make you now wonder what's gonna happen if there was to ever be a season four, but there never will be. The show is like done. Maybe many years from now they'll come up with a season four and resolve what happens, but for now it's been canceled since 2017. And so like I always wonder what was gonna happen because you got the whole Carol, Zoe, and like Vicky's sister situation, and you get the whole Vicky and the sister situation, and it's just like where was this gonna go afterwards? But like I said before, this is an amazing show. It's really funny. It's really cool. I just wish it was more. It's 3 seasons. There are 8 episodes to a season. They're around 11 to 19 minutes. Go check it out. Vicky is just like the worst of the worst character, but you love her to death because she's so hilarious and stuff. And the sad thing is, the only reason why she does what she does is because she's drunk and everything and has that chip on her shoulder. But for that's the most part, like it's weird. Like when Zoe does bad stuff, she does it sober. But when Vicky does bad stuff, it's because she's just pissed drunk and everything. And I really wish, like I said before, they could have had another season to explore her alcoholism and and get her some much needed help and everything. If only this would have had another season. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.